By the time you're watching this video, this Steam Deck of mine will no longer be with me, and that's pretty much all thanks to the new Nintendo Switch 2. In this video I want to explain why that is and my personal experience actually playing these consoles rather than kind of diving into specs and things like that. And also there's something else I need to mention too, which kind of has really swayed my decision as well. Before we do get started though, I do want to sing the praises of the Steam Deck because I think what it's done for the gaming industry as a whole has been incredible. You know, there's now a handheld gaming PC market, and the amount of gamers it's brought back to playing games who didn't have time or didn't want to use their PC or didn't have access to it anymore can now do that again, and that's all thanks to the Steam Deck. So I totally appreciate it for that. It might just not have been the console for me, so let's just get right into it. Alright, let's talk about why I didn't really get on with the Steam Deck. And it's strange for me because I can usually find gaming joy in pretty much anything, but with the Steam Deck I really have struggled. And first off, for me that definitely comes down to the hardware. This is a very pragmatic design, and for me it's kind of devoid of any real feeling. There's nothing here that makes me want to really pick up and play it and have any sort of emotional connection to it, which I know is a very strange thing to say, but the whole thing feels very utilitarian. It's kind of like, here's your screen and your buttons and sticks and off you go. However, the one thing I did really love about the design is how well it fits in the hand. I'll give it to Valve and Steam on this one, especially if you've got slightly bigger hands like me. This is so comfortable. Stick placement is perfect, the buttons feel great, and these touch pads are actually really well put together. I don't love how some of the controls feel like they're really pushed off to the side, like these buttons, and the D-pad over here is so far off to the left it feels like it's going to fall off the console. But in terms of comfort for longer sessions of play, they've nailed that. Another thing I didn't really get on with, and it comes from a feature I really love, is the standby. So you can sleep this console and jump back into a game pretty much with no problems at all, but the standby time is really low. I get around 2 to 3 days of standby on this, and on my Switch and Switch 2 I can get, you know, sometimes like a week's worth or over a week on my old Switch, I swear. And that was always really disappointing. You know, I'd pick it back up, ready to play something, hit the switch, and there's just no power left, and I'd have to plug it back in, which always felt like a roadblock. I also found that the fan on the top kicks up and is pretty loud when it's really going. That's so loud. I also felt like it was missing a kind of flagship title to draw you in. Usually when a new console comes out, it comes with a game to really like make you go, oh sweet, yeah, I want to play that. Whereas the Steam Deck, because it's basically a PC, doesn't have like a killer, you've got to try this title, you've got to try that title. And while I was excited to try things like Cyberpunk on it and things like that, there was nothing on there which felt directly designed for the Steam Deck. There are titles on it which work really well, but a lot of those titles just turn out to be titles that you can kind of get on Switch anyway. And for me, this actually turned into a Hades 2 machine. I poured over 40 hours into that game so far, and on the Steam Deck it felt perfect. Perfect size screen, perfect button placement, the perfect kind of pick up and play game. And there's always this feeling with the Steam Deck that people are kind of more obsessed with what it potentially can play and how well it can get running on here, rather than actually playing the game itself, which always felt kind of strange to me. But the biggest flaw for me over everything else is the size and weight of the Steam Deck. This thing is an absolute tank. There's no two ways of looking about it. And if you want to take this with you somewhere, if you want to throw it into a bag, you're going to have to make a conscious choice to do that because it really will take up a lot of space. And that's where I felt it really fell down for me, because I don't like carrying too much with me when I'm going around. And if I do carry the Steam Deck, especially in the case that it comes in when you buy it, it's massive. It's very difficult to give that much bag space to something like this. I can't help but think like this was made for chilling on the sofa with, or for taking somewhere with you but only locally, because this is far from being able to throw in your bag and forget about it. The Switch 2 doesn't really have that problem though, and yes, while it is bigger than a Nintendo Switch, and online it actually looks kind of similar to a Steam Deck, in person and when you hold it, you'll realize that this is way slimmer, way lighter, and totally possible to take with you anywhere. And I've been taking this on all of my train rides, a few long haul flights, and plenty of car rides as well, and it's something I don't have to think about at all because it's still nice and slim. And if you're brave enough and you don't put a case on it, you can really slide this into a small area on your bag, and it's great. I wouldn't recommend just sliding it into your bag on its own though, and that actually brings us to the sponsor of this video, Belkin, and their new travel case. This is something you'll definitely want if you've just picked up a Switch 2. It's got a super soft anti-scratch lining and shock absorbing materials that make it perfect for longer commutes. It's also nice and slim, so it just fits directly into your bag. The case can hold up to 12 games, which is always useful, and another feature I love is the hidden space for an air tag or tile so you can track its whereabouts for some peace of mind. The case comes in a few different colours too. I've got the charcoal here, but it comes in sand and pistachio green, which looks really nice. I'm actually really glad that Belkin have entered into this gaming space because they've been making cases for iPhones and things like that for the longest time, so it's really nice to see them here, and I'm pretty excited to see what they've got coming up as well. So if you want to check this out, follow the link in the description below. Let's move on to why I really love the Switch 2, because I do think it kind of addresses all of my issues I had with the Steam Deck. I was immediately excited to play the new game for it. Mario Kart World looked amazing, and now that I've played plenty of it, is amazing. And I was also super hyped to play back through Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom in a beautiful 60 frames per second and a much higher resolution as well. I've already sunk about 20 hours into a new Zelda save file, which is just insane. And there's a new Donkey Kong on the way, which looks great as well. Yeah, Donkey Kong actually came out while I was making this video. I'm about half an hour into it right now, and yeah, it holds up. It's a lot of fun. I can see why it's getting 10 out of 10s. And Nintendo have such a good way with their hardware that really invites you to play it. Everything about the Switch 2 just feels fun and interesting to play with. From the way that the Joy-Cons kind of snap on and off, the fact that you get a kickstand which kind of invites you to play it anywhere, and you get the full dock obviously for the TV as well. And Nintendo haven't skimped on the power level this time. Usually when you buy a Nintendo console it feels generations old, but this is basically on the same level as the Steam Deck, and it can play high demanding titles like Cyberpunk and things like that, which is really great to see. And when you do dock it into your TV, you do get a little bit more juice out of it as well. There's a fan in that dock and it can actually push a bit more power into the Switch 2, which lets it do a little bit more on TV. Although I haven't seen any massively clear examples of it stepping up its game, the fact that it does do it though is cool. All of that said, in favour of the Switch 2 though, it's still far from perfect, and there's a few things which have really irked me. The Joy-Cons, which are better in basically every way, are still not Hall effect, so you're going to get stick drift on this, and it's not a case of if, it's going to be when, and Nintendo could have solved that, and they just decided not to. And I can't help but feel like when they start releasing new colours of these and people start getting Joy-Con drift, then they're just going to start picking up a bunch of new colours. It worked on the last one, it was going to work on this one too, which is just such a shame to see. There's also been some horrible cases of people buying pre-owned games, slapping them into their Switch 2 and then getting an online ban because the previous owner of that game has used a computer to back it up and then sold the game on, and that seems to be a bit of a weird, horrible issue that's going around as well at the moment. And I mean, lastly, yes, they've used an LCD panel on here rather than an OLED, but honestly, in general playing, it's kind of hard to notice that. Yeah, the OLED of the previous generation did look a bit better, but this gets so much brighter and it goes all the way up to 120 Hz, which is a pretty good trade-off. And look, let's face it, they're going to put out a Switch 2 OLED version a few years down the line. There's even space on the screen where the OLED will clearly fill, so that's another thing I don't particularly love either. Things look even worse when you put the Switch 2 directly against the Steam Deck as well. For instance, games on the Switch 2 now, a lot of games are just coming out and it's going to be £80. Although that doesn't seem to be the case all the time. I found plenty of new titles which are kind of priced around this £50 level. You obviously need an online subscription to play online with Nintendo as well, and if you want to emulate their older consoles on there, then that's the only way of getting that too. And obviously you're locked down to Nintendo Store. Now, generally speaking, buying a game on Steam is pretty much 100% always going to be cheaper, and the fact that they put on sales constantly means you can pick up some titles for an unbelievably low cost. And even though the Steam Deck OLED is more expensive than the Switch 2, or at least it is here in the UK, overall it's going to be a cheaper console to use because the games are just so much cheaper. There's no online subscription to play online either, which is obviously a boost, and if you buy a game for your Steam Deck then you're going to get it for your PC and potentially for your Mac as well, which is always a great bonus. You can also just outright stream games from one of your consoles or from your PC as well if you've got a strong internet connection, which is good. And there's plenty of ways to emulate games on here too, and you can even go as far as emulating a Switch on the Steam Deck itself, which I've seen online to pretty good success as well. On that note too, you can even boot into a desktop mode because the Steam Deck is running Linux, and then you can do loads more stuff from there if you want to too. And while you are playing games on Steam, you can completely tinker with the settings, so you can adjust the frame rate and adjust the graphics settings and do all of that stuff. And don't get me wrong, some people are going to absolutely love it for that, and it's going to be like, why on earth would you buy a Switch 2 over a Steam Deck when you can do all of this stuff with it? So I totally get it, but it just wasn't for me. I don't want to tinker with games. I don't want to pick through graphics settings and go online and figure out if some games work well and some games don't work well. I just want to pick up a cartridge, put it into the console, and then select performance or quality mode at the menu, and that's kind of it. And truth be told, there's been something else which has kind of been influencing my decision a little bit on these things, and that's the fact that I've been playing loads of retro consoles lately. I'll link those videos below if you want to check them out, but this is a PSP. It's been modded to have loads of better things in it, and the fact that I don't have to think about this at all, you know, I don't have to think if I got enough bag space or is it going to make my bag too heavy or anything like that. I can pick this up, throw it into my bag or even a coat pocket or something like that, and have a really good gaming experience on the go. And it's got this wonderful retro vibe to it. I mean, for me, that's just been killer. And I've been playing these way too much lately. So yeah, that basically wraps up why the Steam Deck was never really the console for me. And then when the Switch 2 came along, this just solidified for me as, you know, the ultimate portable console in so many ways. There is, of course, a really simple way of looking at this though. If you want to play Nintendo first-party titles like Mario, Zelda, Animal Crossing or anything like that, then you're going to need a Switch or a Switch 2. And if you're a PC gamer with an extensive Steam library, or if you enjoy tinkering with graphics settings or playing around in desktop mode, then you're going to much prefer a Steam Deck. They both serve completely different audiences. And you know, I'm happy to just throw my hands up and admit, maybe the Steam Deck wasn't really the console I was ever going to like, regardless of if a Switch 2 came out. But I really do think Valve made something special here. I'm so happy it brought so many people back into the gaming fold. It is excellent. I'm going to be following the Steam Deck stuff really closely, and do you know what? I actually think I'd really much prefer a mini version of this, because I don't need to play the really high-end titles, but I would still enjoy playing the kind of lower-end titles on a much slimmer and lighter console for sure. So for now, I'm going to remain a Switch 2 guy. Anyway, that pretty much wraps up this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're a Steam Deck user, then let me know in the comments below what games you're playing on it and what things you've been enjoying about it. Or if you picked up a Switch 2, you know, let me know what you're playing on there too, because I always love to hear what you have to say. And as ever, I will see you all in the next one.